over here I'll be teaching about TestNG, an end-to-end training for TestNG for Selenium. Fine. By the end of this training you will be learning that how to build test cases with TestNG and the different annotations in TestNG. We'll be seeing how to pass, fail and skip the test cases, parameterize the test cases, that is if you have one test case and if you want to run it 10 times with different sets of data, how do you do that? Okay, and how to batch run test cases, how to parallelly run them in order to save time, and how to generate reports. Okay, reports which will have screenshot, logs. We'll be seeing how to generate extent reports. Okay, and when you are running test cases, few of your test cases will fail, and if you have to rerun only the failed test cases, you can also do that in TestNG. Fine. And the most important thing is we'll be looking at a project structure with reports and test cases. We'll develop a structure which will give you a very good insight into how the project is made and how the reports and test cases and all are generated inside it. Fine. Now the thing is, by the end of this training, as I told you, you will be able to understand TestNG and set up a project structure. Fine. Now before I start off, let me start off with the way I have distributed this whole thing. There are 4 videos. In the first video I'll be talking about TestNG, then about Maven configuration, then about the report generation part, and then the project structure. Fine. If you have any questions, then you can visit our website over here. These are the 4 videos. Okay, and you can ask your questions over here. Fine. Now let us move ahead and start implementing the same. If I talk about TestNG and what is the need of TestNG, why do you need it, then in a clear description I can tell like this, that is, suppose if a client comes to you and tells you that fine, these are my say test cases, okay, and these are my 1000 test cases or 10,000 test cases. Okay, now these test cases have to be executed serially or parallelly. You will have them implemented, okay, 10,000 test cases, but you would want to run them serially or parallelly. Fine. Moreover, when you are running the test cases, you would want that the data inside the test cases should be read from some external file. It can be an Excel file. People also use YML files or JSON files or properties files. Okay, there are different files from which data is read. And moreover, you would want to generate some reports as well. Okay, you want that some reports should be generated, HTML reports. Those reports should be having some screenshots in them. Okay, some logs in them, that what happened. Suppose if 10,000 test cases take 4 hours to execute, then what happened in each and every moment, you should be able to log in the reports. If there is a failure, then proper failure message should be there. And moreover, you would have the requirement that out of 10,000 test cases, at times you don't want to run 10,000 test cases. You have to optionally run the test cases. You just want to run say 1000 test cases. Okay, then if the test cases execute, then you want to rerun the failed test cases. Okay, and then in the end you would also want to integrate other things like Jenkins for continuous integration, or you would want to integrate Grid for parallel execution of the test cases. So it's not just about building the test cases in Selenium. There are lots of other things which you have to do. So to coordinate between all these things, you would like to have a centralized controller. This centralized controller can be TestNG, or people also use JUnit, or sometimes people use BDD frameworks like Cucumber is a BDD framework, then Serenity is a BDD framework. So there are different things available which can facilitate all these requirements. If you talk about Selenium as a tool, Selenium as a tool only has got features which can help you interact with the browsers. Selenium as a tool won't help you generate reports and all different things. It won't help you in that. Okay, so you have to introduce testng in between. What testng will do is that it will read the data from some external file, it will pass over the data to the test cases, it will help you generate the reports, it will help you to optionally run the test cases as well, and parallelly run the test cases as well as implement Grid and Jenkins. This is a basic overview of a project structure which I was talking about in the beginning. Fine. So let us move ahead with this and look at how this will actually be done. Fine. Now the first thing is installing testng. Okay, if you look at the PPT I shared, just a minute, yeah. The first step is that how do you install testng? Look, to install testng, you can write over here testng Eclipse. Testng is is a plugin inside Eclipse. Okay, you have to install it as a plugin. Okay, you can go to the Eclipse section on the testng website and you will see that follow the instructions to install the plugin. Right now, if you click on this link and scroll down, you will have this link, this particular link. Fine, you copy this and you go inside your Eclipse. This is the normal process which everybody does. Fine, you go to help, install new software and paste this, but please be careful with the version. Let me see what is the version of testng which it will be installing, and if I copy and paste this link, hit the enter button, it will take some time to load the dependencies. At times it takes a little more time, so you have to be a little patient. Fine, so let it load. Right, you will see testng written over here. You click on this expand button and the version which is installing is 7.2. Look, don't install this version. Install 7.0, 7.0. It is stable. The current version is unstable. If you already have this installed, okay, go to already installed section and you can remove testng from here. Okay, you can click on it and uninstall it. Fine, your Eclipse might restart. Okay, so this is something you have to be careful about initially in the version. Fine, and then if you have to install 7.0, because 7.2 gives issues, I have seen issues with it. Okay, so go to Google and type Eclipse Marketplace, go to Eclipse Marketplace and type testng 7.0. You will get the link marketplace.eclipse and you can just do one thing. This is the plugin which you have to drag and drop into the Eclipse workspace. Okay, install button, just drag this into Eclipse and this will give you the option in some time to install Eclipse plugin. It's showing that it's not compatible with this version of Eclipse. That's fine because it's already installed in my machine actually. Okay, just hold on. Right, you can click on already installed and then scroll down, select testng and you can uninstall it from here. Once you have uninstalled it, and if you want to install 7.0, then just copy this URL again and go to this particular URL. By default, what Eclipse does is that it takes the latest version. You have to install 7.0, so just click on 7.0, copy the URL, come back to Eclipse and paste the URL for 7.0. Expand testng, and in my Eclipse already 7.0 is installed, so that's fine. Okay, now once you have installed it, you have to just click on next button and your Eclipse will restart as well. Once you have installed it, you just have to go to Window, Show View, Other, and under Java you will have testng. Fine, if this is there, that means TestNG has been installed as a plugin inside Eclipse. Fine. Once you have installed the plugin, you can start working with TestNG and use the features. Fine. So the first thing is that you have to build the test cases. Okay. How do you build the test cases with TestNG? I'll just make a new Java project. Fine. Later on, we'll be seeing the Maven dependencies as well. But right now in the beginning, I'm just making a Java project named as TestNG examples. Fine. And finish this. Right. Okay. I'll make a new package over here known as test cases. Fine. In which I will define the test cases. I'll make a new class known as, say for example, purchase phone test. Okay, search and purchase phone test. Okay, so in TestNG there is no main function. What you have to do is that you have to use annotations. You have to use the annotation like @test public void say search. This @test is an annotation. It means that this function becomes a test case. You have to move the mouse over this and add the TestNG library in your project. Fine. And then import the test annotation. So it gets imported out here, and inside this function you can write some Selenium code which can actually go to some website and search for a phone. I am not writing the Selenium code right now. I'll just print over here because I want to first teach you the features. Searching phone. Okay, to run this file, to run this test case, you just have to right click on this, select run as TestNG test. Okay, you can also go into run configuration section and you will see TestNG tab over here. You can just click on run and it will run as a TestNG test case. Hold on. Okay, my other project has started running. I'm sorry. Actually, configurations had been set up for that particular project. Okay. Anyways, I'll just run it as a TestNG test. So this will run. It says that total runs are 1 and passes are 1 and failures and skips are 0. It will tell you a short form of a report over here, and there will be a tab over here which will give you a graphical representation of the test case saying that it took 0.11 seconds to run it. Apart from this, you will also have some HTML reports directly by default generated. You right click on this project, click on refresh. You will see a test output folder generated. Okay, what I'll do is that I'll go to this folder and I will open it. I'll open my index.html. This is the default HTML report. Look, it's not so good, it's not so fancy, and it's not also very user friendly. We will not be actually looking at this particular report. We will be looking at other reports, but better reports, which are extent reports. Fine. Now once this test output folder has been opened, it's got different things in it, a lot of things. First of all, you have this XML file which is important. This has got the test results in form of XML, and at times if you want to generate reports which are better in some better format, you can use this XML file to do it. Right now I am not going into it right now. Okay, but I am just telling you that this is present over here. You should be knowing about it. This is XML format of the report. And if you have some test cases which have failed, then the details of those test cases also come up over here, which we'll look at later on. Fine. Now moving ahead, you can have multiple test cases in this particular file. In one Java file, you can have multiple test cases. Like I can actually make 3 test cases: search, select phone, and checkout. So these are the three test cases which will go search the phone, select and check out. Fine. And you can run all three of them. You can right click over here, you can run as a testng test. So all three of them would be executed. But you see the order is not the same order in which we had written the test cases. Okay, first my checking out phone is getting executed, then my search phone is getting executed, and then the search phone and then the select phone. So the order is not the order in which you were expecting, that from top to bottom it will be executed. Okay, it won't execute it like that. You have to prioritize the test cases. You have to write over here that priority of this test case is 1. Then priority of the other test case is 2. Priority of other test case is 3. Okay, 1 being the highest one. Fine. So when you run this, you will see that now it will run in that particular order. So over here in the brackets you can mention priority. There are many other options as well which we will be looking at. Fine. Now there is no main function, that is for sure. Okay. Now talking about assertions, we talked about prioritization. How to fail a test case. Okay, let me just make one more class over here known as a simple class like login test, in which I have just one annotation function. Fine. Now when you are testing, you have some expected value and some actual value. Most of the times you compare some expected result with the actual result. Fine. And if both of them don't match, you have to fail the test case. Fine. So you can write over here, say expected value is ABC in this particular test. Fine. And the actual value which you will actually retrieve from Selenium is this thing. Right now I'm hard coding. So right now this Selenium will give you the actual value. For example, if you want to get the title of the page, you can write driver.getTitle. The expected value you can store in some Excel file or some properties file. You can read it from there, or a JSON file. Fine. The expected value can be read from these files. The actual value is actually determined by Selenium, and then you have to fail or pass the test case based on these values. So you use assertion over here. You use the class assert. Fine. Assert is an inbuilt class inside testng. You write over here assert equal. This is the function. Make sure you import this assert equals static function from org.testng.assert class. At times it imports from JUnit as well. Okay, and you have to give the actual value first and the expected value. If both of them match, the test case will pass. Right now both of them are equal, and if I run my login test, see, it passes. But if I make the actual value different and run it, you will see that there will be one failure, and in the results over here, results tab, you will see that expected was ABC but was found ABCX. Okay, so this is how you can fail the test cases. But the problem with assertion is that this type of assertion, if I write over here system.out.println before assertion and after assertion, okay, if I run this, then you will see that when you run it, before assertion will be printed, but after assertion will not be printed. The reason for that is If the assertion fails, then the test will stop on this line. The next test case will start executing. If you have multiple test cases in this file, the next test case will start executing. Fine. Or if you are running different Java files together, which we'll look at later on, the next test case will start. Okay, so this is the problem with this kind of assertion. So that is why we have got soft assertions. I'll talk about soft assertions in some time. Sometimes what happens is that the error or the failure is not so critical and you don't want to stop. For example, the title of the page is wrong. Okay, there is some spelling mistake or something you detect. So you should not be stopping the program over there. Okay, now moreover, there are different types of assertions. There is also a function known as assert true. Over here in this, you can give some condition and a message. For example, I give a condition like 5 greater than message. A message will be some error message. Okay, so when you write assert true 5 greater than 1, then if this condition evaluates to true, then there is no error. If I run this is going to run fine and it will pass. But if this condition evaluates to false, how will we use this practically? I'll just tell you. Okay, if this condition evaluates to false and you run this, it will fail, and in the failure it will print the error message over here. This error message is only printed in case of failure. Now you can actually use anything over here. For example, you want to check whether the element is present on the page or not. We had made a function earlier while learning Selenium, like is element present. You can pass the XPath of the element. Okay, and if the element is not present, you can throw some error that element not found. Okay, right, so remember this function, you can call this. If it returns you false, then you can throw this error. So this is how you can use assert true. Okay, moreover, there is the opposite as well for this function, that is assert false is also there. This makes sure that the condition is evaluated to false, the opposite, and then it will pass. Okay, if condition is true, then it will fail the test case. Okay, right, so assert false is opposite of assert true. Now sometimes you are very sure that you are somewhere in the program where you shouldn't be there, or in the application, and you have to fail the test case. For example, you click on some link using Selenium and you get 404 error, and when you get 404 error, you are sure that this thing has failed. So if you deliberately want to fail the test case, you write over here assert.fail. So this will automatically fail the test case. Okay, directly without any condition. You can give some failure reason over here. Okay, for example, 404 error. So when you run this, you will get this error inside your results, the failure message you will get over here. Okay, so basically these are the assertions which we will be using in TestNG, that is assert equals assert true, assert fail. Fine. Now the problem with them is that these assertions, they stop the flow of the program. If it is a critical failure, for example, you are very sure you have to stop the test, you have a 404, so you can use assert.fail directly and stop it. But at times you don't want to stop it. So what do you do over there? Okay, what do you do over there? We use something known as soft assertions over there. Alright, Now let me take up an example of soft assertions. I'll just create a new class known as, say, validate registration. Validate user registration test. Fine. Now suppose in this you are going to register a user. Okay. And you need to validate the registration. Okay. Now the process which you are going to follow is that, just a minute, out here, just a minute, right. So over here you have to first verify title of the page, then you have to verify some element which is not so critical. Okay, you have to verify a lot of things on this page, but you need to continue with the flow. Okay, you want to continue with the flow and you don't want to stop in between, so obviously you will not be able to use this assertions over here. For that we use soft assert class. You create the object of this particular class. Okay, and you use this to validate everything. For example, if you have to validate title, you can write soft assert dot assert equals, the functions are same, right? You can mention some actual value and some expected value. Actual and expected value are not equal, so this condition is going to fail. You can verify some element. You can write over here soft assert dot assert true. Okay, I'll just hard code over here 5 greater than 1. Basically I'll put true over here and some error message that element not found. So this condition is passing because I have hard coded true over here rather than writing the code to find the element. Fine, whether it is present or not. And then in the end you have to verify the registration as well. Suppose you find out that registration was unsuccessful and you fail the test. You write over here soft assert dot fail with the message registration was not success. Okay, so you want that both these failure messages on this line as well as this line should come in the reports, and if this is also failing, then all three of them should come in the reports. So this is done with the help of soft assertions, but the condition is that soft assertion wants you to fire the function soft assert dot assert all in the end. If you don't write this, then soft assertions will not work. Okay, when you run this code, you will see that if you go to the results, it's showing two failure messages. One, registration was not success, and expected was something but actual was something. It is failing both of them. Okay, if I put up say false over here and run it, it will put up all the three errors in the report. Okay, although for the test case it will just say failure is 1, that means one test case has failed, but in that test case you have got multiple failures. So with soft assertions you can report multiple failures in a test case. Okay, with this you can report multiple failures in a test. Fine. Okay, now the question arises that suppose you are running and you encounter a critical failure. You encounter a critical failure somewhere over here, that some button you had to click on, that button itself is missing from the page. So obviously you would want to fail the test case right away on 17th line. Fine, you don't want to execute it further. You want that this test should just fail on 17th line. Okay, in that case you will have to put some if condition. For example, I'll just write boolean element button presence equals to false. And if I am not actually going into Selenium right now, otherwise I would have called some Selenium function over here. Okay, so if button is not present, then you call the soft assert all over here itself. Okay, so if I run this code, right, it will just print the message, one error message, two error message that XYZ and some element was not found. And you can add one more failure over here, that soft assert fail submit button was not there, something like this. Okay, so in case of a critical failure you will have to call this command in between. Okay, so these soft assertions are really good, and we really struggle hard in JUnit for the soft assertions. Mostly the companies, they use TestNG these days. Okay, and this is a really good testing framework. You must have seen that. Okay, so anyways, so we have got two types of assertions, soft assertions as well as, you know, the normal assertions which I just taught you. Okay, assert equals. You cannot just ignore TestNG when working with Selenium. You have to understand this, because without TestNG you cannot build a project. Okay, now moving ahead, the next thing is dependency between the test cases. Okay, look, first of all, I had these three test cases: search test, select phone test, and checkout test. If suppose the search phone test fails, okay, I put a failure, I put assert.fail with, say, some reason for failure. If I run this, you will see that this test case has failed with some reason being printed out, but the other tests have actually passed. Okay, the tests like select phone and checkout, they have actually passed. You don't want them to actually run, you want them to skip, because the first one has failed. When you can't even search for mobile, then how can you select and check out? So you mention the dependency stuff over here, put a comma and write over here depends on methods, and you specify the method in an array that this is dependent on search, and then this test case is dependent on select phone. So you can have dependent test cases like this, and you can put multiple, something like this as well. Okay, that you can put multiple test names, that this function is dependent on both of these. If any one of these fails, this will not execute. So if I run this, you will see that in the output, first of all, it says that there is one failure and two skips. So the first test fails and the other two tests, they skip. Okay, look, dependency is a very big topic. It's not just about this. There are lots of things, tests between different Java files, what if they are dependent on each other, because dependency plays a very crucial role when we are running on Selenium Grid. Okay, I won't talk about dependency much out here. I will talk about dependencies when I will talk about grid. Okay, Over here in module 19 we have grid 2, 3, 4, all the grids are discussed. Okay, on the fourth version also we have discussed it. So we have I'll tell you about dependency over here when I talk about this. Now over here, if I have to skip a test case, fine. If I want to skip, suppose, the search test deliberately, fine, how do I do that? Okay, sometimes you have some parameter kept in Excel file which tells you that fine, you don't want to run this test. So if you want to skip this test deliberately, you can write over here throw new skip exception, skipping the test. Okay, you import this. Obviously the other line will give you an error saying that if you are throwing an exception, why are you writing over here? So I'll comment this. So this will skip the test deliberately, and when you run this, you see that all the 3 tests have skipped. Because the first test got skipped, the other 2 also got skipped. Generally, if you have 5000 test cases, you just don't go and comment and uncomment the code over there. Okay, we keep some kind of, say, flag, okay, equals to true or false. Fine, we read this flag from external file like JSON or XLS. Okay, and we skip the test case based on this flag. Okay, we write over here that if the flag is true, then you go and skip the test case. Okay, instead of it should be boolean, sorry. Fine, in case the flag is true, then only you go and skip the test case. We don't actually hard code it like this, okay, the way I had done earlier. Fine, so we'll look at these things as well. Okay, so now moving ahead, I talked about dependency of the test cases, how to skip the test case. This was later on, but I talked about it right now. Now there's one important thing known as iTest context. This is really important. Fine. Suppose I will put this flag as false and uncomment this assertion. So right now if I run this, all the 3 tests will be passing. Now there is an interface known as iTest context. This interface is there in TestNG, which helps you to share the data within test cases in a single Java file. Suppose outcome of this test gives you some number which you have to use in the other test case. Okay, these 3 tests are dependent on each other. So this interface helps you over there. You have to pass over the reference of this interface inside every particular function. iTest context is passed over, and this connection object, okay, context object, sorry, okay, you can call it context. The context object is same for all the 3 test cases. Suppose I get some details over here. After searching, I get some phone, okay, say phone ID or something. Okay, so I can set it in context. I can write context.set attribute phone ID, okay, and in which you can write over here, say Samsung. I'm just giving you a normal idea. Okay, and if you want to retrieve the phone ID inside the other test case, suppose select phone, you can write over here context dot get attribute phone ID. You can write like this. So you will be able to extract the phone ID. Right. The return type of get context is object type. You have to cast it into a string type. So you can write like this. And you can print ID is phone ID. So you can have one attribute, one information basically. It's like a messenger. Fine. You in the messenger you set some information over here, and in the next test you can retrieve the information. So when you run this code, you see that ID is Samsung is getting printed. Suppose you are writing one test case in which you get a booking number. In the other test case you have to reuse that booking number. So you can pass over data from one test to another test like this, but only in the tests which are there in one file. If you have say login test and this has to pass information to the other test case, you cannot just pass it through iTest context. iTest context object for login test would be separate. Login test will have its own context, and this search and purchase phone test would have its own context. This is used a lot in the frameworks, especially in page object model. Okay, so anyways, let it be like this right now. Just understand that we can actually set the context and retrieve the context in some other test case in the same file. Fine. Now the next thing is different annotations in TestNG. Okay, that what are the annotations in TestNG and how do we understand those annotations and use them. Fine. Well, I'll talk about it in the next part.